Okay, so I'll just start with a box and a sphere, perhaps. So here's a box, here's a sphere, and maybe I'll just make sure the sphere is big enough, and maybe I'll have to move it around a little bit. So yeah, I can see that the sphere, maybe not that big, huh? Okay, this sphere is in the corner of the box. Yeah, we're good. Let's say I want to take that sphere out of the corner of the box, right? So an easy way to do that is select the object that gets subtracted from, right? So in this case, the box, and I want to take the sphere away from it. Okay. Then I can go to either the Create panel and go to Compound Objects and go to, there's actually two kinds of Boolean. One's a legacy one, so don't ever use it. It really is not very good. Unless you have to, I guess. But the Proboolean is the distinction between the latest one, and which has been around for 10 years now, I think. So anyway, I'm going to choose Proboolean. Again, you can choose that from the Create menu and under Compound and Proboolean, right? Same place as Loft. But you notice Loft is not available because I don't have a path selected or a 2D shape at all selected. So anyway, Proboolean, and I'll click on it. And now I'm going to look at some of the parameters going on here. Right now the default is at subtraction, and that is what I want to do. So I'll leave that. That's the operation, right? So you can also merge or union, which are similar to each other, intersection, which would only leave the area, or the volume, I should say, that's common between the two objects, if you can imagine that. We'll do that one later. But anyway, let's do the subtraction. All I got to do is click on Start Picking and click on the object you want to take away from the selected object. So in this case, the sphere. So I click on it, and you can admire the beauty in the subtraction, right? Did that work for everybody? And I'm still picking, right? So I could have several objects here, and I could subtract many of those objects in one step as needed, but in this case, just one. There it is. Did it work? I'll give everybody a minute to try that and ask questions if needed. I'll pause. We can edit this subtraction also. So if I go to the Modify panel, you can look at, there's some options here. Well, one of them is the sub-objects of the Proboolean, I guess is what you would call that. If I go to operands, I can, let's look at the sphere, right? So I click on sphere, and now I can look at the sphere and change its radius, right? So I can edit it, and I believe, no, I can extract it to move it, like actually reposition it. What else can you do? Well, any of those parameters are good to go, right? So let's go back up to operands and sphere, and let's extract. How am I going to do that? If I extract this item, then I can get it back and then move it. Oops, select it. Can I actually move that? Oh, come back here. And then just reposition there, and reposition the sphere. And then I'd have to go back to the Proboolean and just reconnect it, right? So start picking again and then re-add it to it and get its position. I thought there was a way that I could actually so click on the sphere.
I think if you zoom out, it might be.
No. Yeah, I thought.
I can do it on my side, or I could just move the invisible sphere.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was doing. Operand sphere, got it. And extracting it just removes it from the list. So that's not. Oh, here we go. Under the display in operands, maybe I can select that sphere. Can I select the sphere? Oh, sphere. And now I can move it. There we go. Thank you. That was a little trickier. That's a little different than I was expecting. So now I can just move it around and then go back out of the Proboolean. Well, then I'd have to just look at the result. And so I can switch between just looking at the operand so I can move them around and the resulting box, right? Then perhaps I want to chamfer the edge that it makes or something, and so I could add or convert this thing. I could just collapse it so I can't access those operands anymore, or I can live edit it with an edit poly and maybe look at the edge, and it already selects that common edge between them, which is kind of cool. However, usually chamfering it doesn't work so well because the edges don't quite match, but let's see what happens. So let's just check the amount. And not too bad, but we can see, and let's add some. So I've tried to round off that edge a little bit. You can see that it got a little wonky in some places, and that's because, see if I can see it. So I hit F4, and you can see where it kind of built an edge where it needed to be or whatever. So to make those two objects subtract from each other, it still had to triangulate it, and so by doing that, it's not going to always be like perfect. So that would be pretty easy to fix, I guess. So I just leave it. All right, so F4, and then I've gotten this rounded off. Okay, now it doesn't necessarily look very good, and it's hard to tell, but I think it is pretty good. And that has to do with the smoothing groups, and I would have to reset those, and we'll look at that in a sec. But let's pause again. How about now? I'm just going to make two spheres. How about? Whoa, how about I make a sphere? And then I'll make another one to intersect it, right? That just right next to it or something. And this makes a fun shape. I'm just. How about I just make them the same size? That might be a little nicer. So let's make that 50. Oh, now they're getting really big. 50. Two spheres of the same size now. It doesn't matter which one I have selected because I'm just going to go to the compound objects and Proboolean, and this time I'll use intersection. And I'll just pick the other one, right? So start picking, pick the other one, and see. Now you see what an that's basically the intersecting volume of those two shapes. That'd be really good for like a iris or something, right? Or if I chamfered that edge, it'd be a good Mento or something. Or M&M, not a peanut one, just a chocolate. Or yes, thank you. That may be the best one, right? Correct. So I'm gonna angle snap, and notice how it picks the center of rotation is the center of the original sphere. So anyway, just saying, you could change that, and then I probably need to scale that so it's a little flatter, right? Okay, there you go. There we go. Nice. That was pretty fun. All right, what else? And well, union is also a very common thing to do, and maybe I'll use two cylinders for that just real quick. So cylinder 1, nice big cylinder here. Let's turn on auto grid and make another cylinder here, not as big, and punch it out, and then move it. Now I'll use the local coordinate system so I can move it along its own z-axis. So straight in, maybe all the way through, how about? No, just sticking in, I forgot I was unioning them, right? So it doesn't matter, union kind of doesn't matter which one you want to union, although it will pick up the color or material of the original, so keep that in mind, I guess. So compound objects and Proboolean, this time union, and start picking, and there. So now it's one object, and let me undo. If you notice in the top view, you can see that the two shapes are distinct. I mean, they have some intersecting volume, but once I click that, it actually deletes any intersecting volume in it. So there, right? Perhaps I'd want to, I didn't want to go too long on this, but it's so fun. Let's say I have another cylinder here, and maybe I would have centered that and punched it all the way through, and then I could still go back to select this guy and go to subtraction and add another object that would subtract from it. So now I got this hole punched through it.
It looks like a soap pump.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a good one. I could put another cylinder on the bottom and subtract that, and then the hole would actually meet, right? So so very good. Yeah, I like it. Okay. How about, kind of reset here a little bit. And there's one other one that, there's a lot more in there, but there is one that's kind of fun to do. So I'll start with a box again. Just a flat box, and where I'm going with this is I'm going to add a two-dimensional shape like text. So I'll use the auto grid to put some text on there. It's probably a little big, so I'll change the size of it. I don't care what the text says, but it's right on top of that cylinder, so I just want to move it in. Probably easier to move it put it in the center. Okay. Now I'll select the box, and I'll go to compound objects again. And this time I'll do a shape merge, right? So the text is considered a two-dimensional shape. So I'm going to merge that shape with the box. And why would I do that? Well, I'll answer my own question. Thank you very much. So shape merge, right? And then I'll pick shape. And there's some, I could use a cookie cutter or just merge, right? And in my case, I just want to extrude that text out. So I'll just pick shape, and I'll click on the shape. And there it is, right? That's it. And now it's its own, well, you can't really tell the difference, right? Well, let me pull that across. And then I'll go to edit poly, so I can edit some faces here. And it's a little weird, but if I go to, polygon, and let's make that a little easier to see. So I'll select all the polygons and scroll down to the bottom, and I'm going to clear all the smoothing groups. So you can actually have collections of faces or polygons, and they're going to be smoothed, and they could be separate from the smoothing of other ones. Well, this is a box, so you can't really tell, so I just cleared them out, and that should make it a little easier to see anyway. So I can't really see it, but F4 should allow me to see those polygons. So I'm still in polygon mode. And too bad the box is red, huh? Let's make it not red. So now when I select a polygon, I can see, holding the control key, I'll just pick the word max here and extrude or something, right? Or bevel or whatever. So let's just try extrude. I could use the settings, but I don't care to use the settings. I'll just use this extrude, click and drag, and I can extrude those out or in, right? So out, and then right click to stop that, and select these other. See where we're going with that? We can see what you can, oops, missed. Alt click, control click, zoom in, be a little easier, and let's extrude these inward, just for fun. Not too far. There we go. This is actually a manifold surface because it puts edges on the inside. They're not holes or anything. So this could be 3D printed, right? Kind of fun. So that's a Shapemerge. We'll stop there with that. Is that okay? Somebody want to try that? We can pause again. Okay, so this time, instead of compound objects, I'm going to do another form of compound objects, and that's some of these other ones that we haven't really talked about. The AEC extended and doors and windows, right? So I'll go AEC extended basically gives you foliage, and be careful with those. I mean, that's like trees and whatever that are already baked in or come with the installation or whatever. Wall is what I wanted to talk about first. So if I wanted to make a wall, I might want to actually make them the right size. So I would go to Customize and Unit Setup first and just put it on perhaps just decimal feet or something. So it's in feet. And then I would also use the grid to help me out here. So I'm going to turn on the snap, go to grid points only for now. Look at the home grid, and right now the grid spacing's at, what is that, 5 inches? No. What was 0.833, something twelfths? 11 twelfths? 10 twelfths? Yeah, it's 10 twelfths. Anyway, yeah, the grid spacing is 10. But I can make that like, I don't know, 2 feet. Let's make it 2 feet. Okay, so now the grid spacings are 2 feet apart. How about that? So when I make a wall, I can just click and make a wall a nice distance. Yeah, I don't know. Make a courtyard. There, and I just want to finish that off. So here's the, I've just weld point, yes, okay. And right click to stop. So what it did, turn that off for a minute. So it made this nice little area, right? Okay, what's nice about this is a wall actually acts a little differently than some other objects. So let's put a door in it, right? So if I pick a door, I have a pivot door, sliding door, bifold. Pivot is just what we're used to mostly, just open and closing doors. But here, I want to change my grid points to like edge. So edge or segment. Okay, so now I can snap to the bottom of the wall is what I'm after here. And I kind of don't want to shade it, so F3. So now I can see the inside and outside edges, whoops. And it may be also easier because when I zoom in too far, the perspective viewport, now I can do it. Perspective viewport kind of gets a little wonky. Sometimes it's nice to just use orthographic, and then I can zoom in as far as I want, and I can really get close to an edge without going through it. So that's kind of one difference, one advantage of using orthographic over perspective. But anyway, I think I can get away with perspective. So I'm going to click on and drag on the outside edge of the wall. Okay, so that's this blue edge. So I can click and drag, and now I can see that I'm dragging out the width of the door, which I don't really care what the width is because I can really, it's the parameters are where it's probably best to set that anyway. So I'm going to let go of my mouse a little bit away, right? And then I'm going to set the width, and I would snap to this inside edge of the wall, and I can see my cursor a little easier if it's not inside there, but whatever. So I click, and then set the height. So I can zoom out and set the height of the door. This is a big door. There it is. So you might notice that the wall has been broken, right? So if I shade this, you can see the door and the wall, and that's great. But let's open the door a little bit, and the door is open, and it opens the wall. So that's kind of like a Boolean, right? So they're kind of just made for each other. And windows do the same thing. So how I would make a window, though, is pretty much the same way, but I would use, but definitely snapping. It's a little tricky if you don't use snapping. Okay, let's go back to instead of doors, window. And there's lots of different kinds of windows. Just a regular sliding window ought to be good, or a casement that opens like a door, or pivoted. So F3 again, do the same thing. So snapping to the outside edge, make a nice big old window here. So I let go a little bit further away from that first click, and then my second click is on the inside edge of the wall. And then a third click is setting the height. And now, typically, a window isn't at the bottom of the wall, right? So I right click to stop that, and then I can move, just make sure you're constraining, and maybe you don't want to have the snapping on, so S on the keyboard, and I can constrain the window to be in the wall, and as long as I do that, it should allow me to open and close the window. Where's the open percent there? So I can slide the window open, and now I can see through. Right, so there's the inside. So the window also breaks the wall open for that. As far as materials go, they're a little special, right? I think the easiest way to look at that is go to the Help menu and look at the different material IDs. So a door and a window have material IDs. So do walls. They have an inside and an outside, so a different material ID for each of those. And so to find that out, I'm just going to go to Help, Autodesk Help. Thank you. And I'm just going to search for window or door, but door and window right there. Let's see. Working with, I don't know, is it gonna, yeah, I got to pick something. So how about windows? If I scroll down, here it is, materials for the windows. So these numbers are useful in materializing or adding materials to your window. And a different material for each of these items will give you a different color or a different texture or a different material anyway for them. So the main ones, here's your list, right? So the panels or the glass should be like transparent or something, unless they're blackout windows or something. And then the frame would be number 2, or the back rails. The front rails are number 1, so the inside and outside again of the window. There you go. So keeping this in mind, I'll go back and I'll create a material just for windows and wall or doors. So M to get my material editor up, and I'm going to use. So I need multiple materials on these objects. So here's the special material for that. It's called a multi-sub-object material. So I'm going to drag that one out, and it can support as many numbers as you want. In this case, all I want is 5. So this one has 5 materials, 1 through 5, and I just need to match those with, this one. So let's say the glazing. So 3 is what I want first. So I'm going to just add a physical material to number 3. I'm going to make that material some sort of glaze, right? So what? Should be like glass, transparent glass, thin geometry, right? So it's a thin pane of glass. Solid geometry would be like Prince Rupert's drops or something, like thick glass somethings, right? So glass orbs or other things that are thick. Anyway, thin geometry glass is what we're after here. And then, so that's added to this multi-subobject material, and all I'm going to do is add that to the window, right? So outside node dragged onto the window, and now I can see through that window whether it's open or closed. So I'll close it. I don't know if I can render that, if I'll see anything, because there's no floor, but if I change the background color, that should help. Let's use purple. That looks good. And then I'll render it just to see. I mean, I could active shade it. Well, anyway, just render it. So see, you can see through the window now. That's all I wanted to show. And then of course the other materials are just as useful to, like the frame and other things. I'll just add physical materials to each of these. So there's 5 total. And then you can add, I'll just use colors to show those. And then just change the color. Let's make some green. Oh, I didn't want that. Change that back to thin glass. Blue. Okay, so let's render that out. We'll see what colors we can get with, well, we should see the colors anyway, but anyway. So yeah, we have this blue frame on the outside with a pinkish rails. Let's look on the inside real quick. And so now we have that reddish color for the inside rails and stuff. So anyway, same numbers, material IDs for the doors as well. So I'll just stop here and let the rest of the workday happen. So any questions, comments on that? Let's copy.